Welcome to the Ashford and St Peter's Antenatal Exercise videos. Exercise is recommended in pregnancy to help improve or maintain your fitness, reduce the risk of developing gestational diabetes, and to manage pain such as pelvic or back pain. There are some rare occasions when exercise may not be considered healthy or safe during pregnancy. You should have been referred into this exercise class by your physiotherapist. They will have screened you and made sure that you are able to complete this exercise program. If your pregnancy or medical history alters, you may need to review this with your obstetric team or physiotherapist before continuing these exercises. In addition to this, you can also check our leaflet online at Pelvic Health Physiotherapy, ASPH, where you will find, if in doubt, check it out leaflet. If you have any of these symptoms, please get them checked before continuing with this exercise video. If you have any concerns that you have not already discussed, please contact your physiotherapist or your obstetric team to review this before starting these exercises. We hope you enjoy the class. We're going to start with a warm-up. First, let's bring our attention to our breath. We're going to place our hands onto our lower ribs and take a nice deep breath in. You should feel your hands open out like an umbrella opening, and then closing as you breathe out. Take a few of these breaths to start. Then we're going to think about our pelvic floor. So continue your breathing as we are doing. And on the next one, as you breathe out, think about engaging your pelvic floor. So closing from the back passage, tightening up and pulling forward towards the pubic bone. Hold that for 5 seconds whilst your breathing continues. And then drop and let go. Standing is the most tricky position to find our pelvic floor in. So if you are unable to find it in this position or feel the sensation, try this exercise again in sitting or lying on your side, making sure the movement of the pelvic floor starts from the back passage and pulls up and forwards through the vagina while your breathing continues steadily. We'll continue with this pelvic floor engagement, aiming to hold between 3 to 5 seconds, 5 to 10 times, depending what you're able to do at this stage. We're now going to move on to getting our neck moving. Relax your arms by your side, and we're just going to gently turn our head all the way to one side to look over our shoulder, and then slowly back to the other side. Try to do this movement slowly. After doing this, we're going to start to move the head down to the side. So imagine you're bringing your ear to your shoulder, back to the center, and down to the other side. Don't force your neck, but you might feel a gentle stretch on each side as you do this. We're going to start to bring our shoulder movement into this. So I want you to roll both shoulders forwards, making big circles, bringing the shoulders back and stretching through the front of the chest, up towards the ears, round and down. Once you've done this 5 times, you're going to do your shoulder rolls backwards. Really exaggerating each of those movements so that the shoulders come forward, up, back and down. We're going to increase the movement through the upper back and the shoulders. So we're going to bring both arms up to shoulder level and we're going to drop our head. We're going to take a nice deep breath in to prepare. And then as we breathe out, we're going to lift the head, open out the shoulders and widen the chest. Then breathe in, come back together, breathe out and open. Keep this movement nice and fluid and smooth. And continue for 5 repetitions. Once you've completed this, we're going to get our pelvis moving. It might help to place your hands just on the front of your hips so you can feel the movement. I want you to think about your pelvic ring like a bucket of water. And we're going to think about tipping the water out the front of the bucket as we increase the arch in our lower back and point our bottom out behind us. And then we're going to engage the tummy muscles, tuck the bottom under, and imagine we're pouring water out the back of the bucket. Continue this movement, tipping forwards and tipping backwards. As you're doing this, don't push into any uncomfortable movements, but pause at each end. And then we're going to start to think about our middle position. See if you can find that middle position where you gently tuck your bottom under slightly and the lower tummy muscles should naturally engage. We're going to hold that middle position for any of our further exercises in standing. We're now going to move on to getting the ankles and the feet moving a bit more. So we're just going to rise up onto our toes on one side and we're going to circle the ankle. We can still take a little bit of weight through that toe and then turn the circle in the other direction. Whilst we're doing this, make sure that we keep the hips nice and level and we don't drop down on the side that we're bearing our weight through. We're going to swap to the other side with our ankle circles. Engage that lower tummy, keep the pelvis level, circle the ankle one direction, and then into the other direction. We're now going to put our weight onto both feet, keep our feet shoulder width apart, and remember that nice neutral pelvic position of our bucket of water around our pelvis. We're going to push up onto both toes, keeping our balance, and then lowering back down. Come back up. This time when we come back down, if you're able to, try and just lift the toes slightly at the front and come back down. So we're rolling onto the balls of our feet, keeping our balance, back down and onto our heels. Continue this movement a few times. Think about your pelvic position and engage in the lower tummy. And when you feel ready, come back to a middle position where your weight feels nice and equal between the balls of your foot and your heels. We're just going to think about our weight side to side. So we're going to shift our weight from our left to our right leg. And when you feel ready, come back and find your middle position. So we have our weight evenly through our left and our right leg. We're going to think about this position for any exercises we do in standing, considering our pelvic bucket of water, thinking about our weight between our toes and our heels, and our weight left and right. We're going to do a squat. So to position yourself for the squat, make sure your feet are shoulder width apart. Your toes are ever so slightly turned out or pointing forwards, and you think about your weight being even between your left and your right. We're going to lower down into a squat and then push back up. Really try to think about gently engaging your tummy muscles as you come down and really engaging your bottom muscles on the way back up. We're going to continue with these squats for a moment. If this exercise is feeling good and you're feeling happy, you can make this harder by adding in some pulses when you get down to the lower point. So you can do 5 pulses and then push back up. If that feels uncomfortable for you or a bit too challenging, let's come back to just doing your straight squats. Really thinking about your knee position when you come down and making sure your knees are staying in line with your toes and they're not dropping into the center. If we want to progress this exercise further, you can add a band that's tied around your knees to add some resistance. You can tie your band tighter to make it harder, or looser to make it a little easier. If this feels too much for you, please just stay with your straight squats we were doing at the start. As you come down with the band, make sure you're really encouraging your knees to stay in line with your toes, so they'll be pushing ever so slightly outwards against the resistance of the band. Again, if you want to challenge this further, you can also add in the pulses at the bottom. Do listen to your body and make sure that it's something that feels comfortable for you. particularly if you're doing this exercise for the first time. We're going to do a lunge exercise. To do this, position one foot in front of the other. Just step your feet as far apart as they feel comfortable. This shouldn't give you any pain around the front of the pubic bone. If it does, don't spread your feet quite so far. When you come down into your lunge, you're thinking as though you're coming down into a proposal position. Just come as low as you feel comfortable. You don't have to use something, but a chair or a work surface can be useful to help you keep your balance. Don't be pushing your weight through that. Just use that to keep you steady. You're going to repeat this movement, keeping an eye on your toe and your knee position to make sure that your knee stays in line with the foot and doesn't drop too far in or out. And then once you start to feel tired, you can swap to the other side. We're going to do a crab walk. For this exercise, we have tied a TheraBand around the middle of the calf. You can do this exercise with or without the TheraBand, depending on what feels comfortable and easier for you. To start the exercise, bend the knees ever so slightly. Keep it in mind, the knees being directly over the toes and not dropping inwards. You're then going to do small steps to the side. These are not large steps, to the left and to the right. Try not to bounce your head. Keep nice and steady. Keep a slight bend at the hips and the knees, and keep the knees over the toes. You will start to feel this exercise working through your legs and your bottom. As you become tired, keep mindful of your knee position and that you're not bobbing up and down. This exercise is on all fours. When we get into this position your knees directly beneath your hips and your hands directly beneath your shoulders. This is a movement exercise. We're going to lift and open the arm and then drop the arm down and thread it under the other arm and come as low as you feel comfortable. This may involve bending the arm you have your weight on. You can alternate this side to side, or if it feels better for you, you can do 10 on one side and then swap to the other side. Keep your breathing steady as you go and pause for a second or two at the end of each movement. We're going to get our lower back and upper back moving. We're going to arch our back up like an angry cat. We're then going to drop our back down and make a dip in our back, pushing our head and our tummy up. We're going to work through this movement a few times. Feel that slight stretch as you go through. We're now going to find the middle of this position where our back feels relatively flat, and then we're going to engage our lower tummy muscles and try to hold this position. From here, we're going to use our arm to make this movement a little bit more difficult. So we're going to float the arm up into the air so it's level with our head, and then bring it back down and swap sides. Your focus of this exercise is not the arm. Your focus is about keeping your back and your tummy engaged and in the center, not twisting your body. I want you to imagine you're balancing a tray of drinks on your back and none of them are falling off while you're lifting your arm. As you lift the arm, it's good to remember to engage the lower tummy and draw in the pelvic floor. You can keep alternating your arms nice and slowly. To make this harder, we can add in some pulses at the end of the movement. So we can put the arm up, lift 2 or 3 times, and then back down and swap sides. A progression of this exercise would be to move to our feet. So again, we're going to think about making sure we're in that neutral position. Gently engage your tummy. Before we slide the leg, we're going to engage the pelvic floor, and then we're going to slide the leg out behind us, keeping the toes on the floor to take the weight of the leg. We're going to alternate the legs, the same as we did with the arms. We're going to remember to keep our tummy and our pelvic floor engaged as we slide the leg behind us. And we're going to keep that tray of drinks balanced nicely on our back without arching or twisting. If this is feeling comfortable and you want to make this exercise harder, you can lift the leg at the end position. So slide and then float the leg into the air. Come back down and alternate. This is a time where your back and your body is really going to want to twist. So engage the tummy and the pelvic floor. And if you feel unable to do this without twisting your back or arching, or it causes pain, then just come back to sliding your feet along the floor. You might want to do this exercise in front of a long mirror if you have one, so that you can keep an eye on your back, or ask someone to keep an eye on it for you to make sure that you're not doing these twisting or arching movements without realizing. A final progression of this exercise is to try and combine those movements. So we would do the opposite arm to the opposite leg. We would engage our tummy and our pelvic floor, float the arm and the leg at the same time, lift and then back down. We can just keep the toe on the floor for this one, if we prefer. Remember, the arm and the leg are not the main focus of this exercise. It's about engaging your tummy and your pelvic floor and keeping your back flat. You can focus on 1, 2, or all 3 parts of this exercise separately, and you can build up through the levels as you feel able to. We're going to do this next exercise in side lying. You want to bend your bottom knee to help with your stability and keep the top leg nice and straight with the foot flat. Make sure you think about your middle position. So again, you might want to do some of your pelvic tilts, rocking forwards and backwards to find your mid-spine or neutral position. And as always, gently engage your lower tummy muscles. Keep your breathing steady throughout the exercise. To start the exercise, lift the leg off of the floor, keeping the toe pointing forward, and then come back down. Lifting up, pausing, and back down. This is a slow exercise. Keep the movement steady on the way up and on the way down. If this is uncomfortable, you can make this exercise slightly easier by bending the top knee. So you're shortening the leg and lifting from here. We can also change this exercise by adding in a thera or resistance band. We tie this around the knees. The tighter we tie this band, the harder it will work us. Come back into your same position. We put the legs straight and we lift against the resistance of the band until you feel the tension, and make sure that this stays comfortable for you. We can increase the pause time at the top of the leg lift, again, to further add resistance. You can pick whichever level of this exercise is right for you, and you may find this is different on different days. We must also remember to do the same exercise on the other side to equal out. We're going to cool down and do some stretches. We're going to stretch out inner thigh muscle. Put your leg out to the side, keeping the other one bent. You should feel a stretch on the inside of your thigh. If you don't, you can start to drop your bottom back towards the heel and increase that position until you feel the stretch on your inner thigh. We shouldn't bounce this stretch. We should hold steady for 20 to 30 seconds. If this causes pain on your inner thigh or across the pubic bone that's more than a stretch, please do not continue with this stretch. We must make sure that we do the same stretch on the other side. We're now going to move on to a stretch for our front of our thigh, called our hip flexors. We're going to come up into high kneeling. You may need to use a chair to give you some balance. Bring one knee up in front of you, as though you're in a proposal position, and we're going to stretch the thigh that you see closest to the camera. To do this, we're going to enter a slight lunge position on the weight-bearing leg and see the stretch through the front of the hip. Hold that position for 20 to 30 seconds without bouncing. You must then swap and do the same on the other side. We're also going to complete a hamstring stretch in this position. To do this, straighten your knee with the foot at the front, poke your bottom out behind you, and lean forward. You should feel a stretch of your thigh on the side of the leg that is straight. Again, don't bounce, and hold this stretch for 20 to 30 seconds. You must also complete this on the other side. We're going to finish our stretches in standing. Slowly get yourself up, and we're going to do a calf stretch. To do this, we put one foot in front of the other, making sure the feet are facing forward. Then we're going to bend our front leg and keep the back leg straight with the heel planted firmly on the floor. We're going to hold this for 20 to 30 seconds without bouncing. Be sure to check the position of both your front and your back foot to make sure they are facing forward. Again, you may wish to hold onto a table or chair to help your balance. We must also complete this stretch on the other side. We're now going to do a stretch and to get our lower back moving. We're going to stand with our hips and feet shoulder width apart. We're going to reach one arm up into the air, and we're going to lean down to the opposite side. Try to stay in the center or ever so slightly pushed forward rather than leaning upwards for this stretch. Hold that position for 20 to 30 seconds. Slowly come back up and complete the stretch to the other side. Arm above your head, lean down to the opposite side, keeping in the middle or ever so slightly forward. Hold this position. We're going to complete a stretch for our buttock muscles. Sit slightly forward on your chair. Bring one foot to rest on top of the other knee. From this position, push your chest forward and lean your upper body forwards until you feel a stretch in your bottom. You may need to adjust the position of your foot to bring it further across your body or further up. When you find the stretch in your buttock, hold that position without bouncing for 20 to 30 seconds. Complete this on each side. We're going to lift the knee up, place the foot, keep the shoulders back, and gently lean the upper body forwards until we feel the stretch in our buttock, holding for 20 to 30 seconds. You can complete all of these stretches more than once on each side if you wish. Well done for completing the class. If you feel that your pain has been made worse by this class, then please contact your physiotherapist to discuss this further. However, it is normal to have some aching for a short period of time after the class or the day after, but this should not be sharp in nature or make it harder for you to complete your normal daily activities. We recommend you complete this class a minimum of twice a week, up to 5 days a week. If you are just starting with exercise, you may need to break this down into smaller bite-sized pieces, for example, completing 10 minutes at a time, and gradually build this up to the full class.